What's up, everybody? Welcome to the premiere episode of Cigars and Brawls.
Well, guys, in this channel, as it says in the description probably of the channel, not of the video, we smoke cigars while we talk fights, and that is what we're gonna do. But first of all, we're gonna start off with the cigars. First, we're gonna have the cigar segment, and then we're gonna have the UFC segment. When we get to it, we'll discuss it.
Well, we'll mostly be covering the UFC because they put on the best fights and they got the best show in town. But we will explore other combat events. We got Francis Ngannou coming up against Tyson Fury. That's a boxing fight.
That sounds interesting.
That'll be held in Saudi.
Last time something like that happened, it's usually the boxer who wins.
The boxer usually wins. It's
and
their
with Floyd
domain.
Mayweather and Conor McGregor, that
Whooped his
happens.
ass.
Yeah, so they're a spectacle more than they are an actual challenge of skill.
It's an exhibition match, dude.
It is. It's something you just there to watch. I mean, like a lot of other fighters were even arguing about the fact that you should not even what's his name? Floyd Mayweather should have not even gained a point in his record for that. You know what I mean? Like it would not have gone as a
Shouldn't
win.
have counted as a win on his
gone
record.
down as a win. Yeah.
It's not really a boxing,
Exactly.
a
A
competitive
guy who
boxing
has
fight.
zero experience in boxing alone versus a guy who boxes.
I mean,
alone. How's that fair?
McGregor could have beaten some some amateur boxers or boxers with a poor professional record. But yeah, once you reach the top tier, you have no chance in hell, dude.
Yeah,
No chance in
I
hell.
agree with that.
No chance
for
in hell.
sure. So it's usually there just for pure entertainment more than it is anything else. Even Conor McGregor said it himself, he is more of an entertainer than he is a fighter.
He's a shite talker.
Pretty much, and that's why he has a shit record.
So in a nutshell, we'll mostly cover UFC events, but we can explore other venues. Let's
All
get
right,
into
guys.
it.
We're gonna get into the cigars next. All right, guys, we are back with the cigar segment. We have two different cigars for you. I'm gonna start off with mine, and we're gonna talk about it as we smoke it initially, and then we're gonna shift into the UFC and continue smoking, and maybe talk about the cigar a bit, but mainly talk about the UFC in the Brawls segment. So, what I'm going to be discussing is Oliva Serie V. I have never tried this before, but I have heard so much. I'm not sure if the camera is focused. I don't think it's focused, but I think you guys can see it good enough. Now this is a cigar that came out in the year, I believe, 2006. It is Nicaraguan Puro, meaning that the filler inside, the binder, and the wrapper are all Nicaraguan. And I heard it has creamy taste, some coffee taste, nutty, a little bit of cinnamon. I've heard a lot, but I haven't tasted it myself. So today we're gonna discover how good this one is from my perspective. And my friend here also has another different cigar that he will be talking about. Which one are you discussing?
We got the Perla del Mar. This is the Shade series. So this is by J.C. Newman. They are arguably the first US-based producers of premier cigars since 1895. Now this has a light brown wrapper, and it smells really good. It smells like you walked into a forest full of cedar trees, and it's supposed to have a spicy flavor to it and a nutty flavor profile. So can't wait to spark.
All right, guys, he has already cut his cigar, so I'm gonna cut mine now. And I thought since I didn't cut it, we might as well discuss how to properly cut a cigar. Now, as you all may know, there are various methods of cutting a cigar, like the V-cut. However, I'm just gonna go for the straight cut here. It's my favorite. I have not tried the V, so I can't say it's my favorite yet, but I feel like it's a classic one. It gives you a bigger opening, which allows more smoke to go through. This is personally how I see it. I have not tried the V cut to decide yet if it is better or not. Anyways, guys, as you can see, this is the cap right here. I'm not sure if you can see the thin line right here. All right, so that's all you want to remove when you cut a cigar. It is a very thin layer, and we're about to go for it right now. First, let me just see if we can get it under the light so we can see where it's coming from. So, as you can see, guys, it is actually pretty thin.
Bam.
Cut almost. There's a little bit of the wrapper. I cut it a bit too thin. There we go.
You can always adjust.
You can always adjust. Not the cleanest cut, guys, not gonna lie. But it's pretty good. The cap is off.
Talk about clean.
The wrapper is still intact. So we're pretty good. Now, to light the cigar, personally speaking, I like to hold the cigar at this position, at this angle first, and then I like to go for the filler first. Because the filler is thicker, it burns slower than the wrapper and the binder. So, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but I will try to show you. And then you just want to keep rotating it. Make sure you burn all the sides equally. If you don't move the cigar, you can move the lighter, move your hand until the foot is fully lit, like this. Still.
You want to give it a kick whilst you take the first hit. That usually helps. What you say?
I can taste spices in the beginning.
Can you?
But I'm not sure if I can taste any of the other notes, such as the caramel and the coffee yet. Because as I have heard, that the cigar has 3 stages. The first third, it tastes different, and the second third, and then the final third. What do you think?
This is smooth. So this is a mild smoke, mild to medium smoke. I'd recommend this for people that are just getting into cigars, for beginners, or even, I mean, it's really mild. It's a smooth hit. So I'd even recommend this as a morning cigar to go with your coffee.
Unlike the Serie B here, this is a medium to full body. This is very rich in taste, but I would not consider this a morning cigar. I would smoke this maybe after I had lunch or after I had dinner on a full stomach, so you don't have that woozy feeling that people are talking about sometimes that makes them dizzy, especially if they have no experience in smoking cigars or cigarettes or tobacco, or they haven't smoked anything in their life. You know, this can make them actually feel like they smoke something else.
A little space trip.
Exactly, pretty much. It's actually really powerful, man. As a ex-cigarette smoker, I remember my first cigarette. I made my head spin. So this is the similar idea, but this is much bigger than a cigarette.
So what's the difference between a cigar, inhaling a cigar, and inhaling a cigarette? Because you're not supposed to inhale this.
So they say. This is an argument that is up for debate. Now, personally speaking, I have my very personal opinions about it, such as when it comes to a cigarette, okay, it is supposedly filled with chemicals, 200 or hundreds of chemicals at least, all right? A cigarette has over 200 chemicals apparently, and yet it was designed to be inhaled. However, the cigar that is organically grown,
Puro.
And the leaves are, picked and hand selected,
Cured.
and cured in a process that tobacco, in a way, in a treatment that tobacco will never see. It's not supposed to be inhaled. It doesn't make that much sense. Now, I do understand that inhaling any type of smoke is not a good idea. We can all agree there. Anything is not good. Your body was not designed for it. Nope, your lungs weren't. So, but is this a cleaner smoke than a cigarette? For sure, it is cleaner. It has no chemicals, no pesticides, no nothing. Organically grown again. Only the best leaves are selected, and it is hand rolled and cured for around 5 years. Box pressed.
Box
years.
pressed.
This is hand rolled, and even says it right here. I'm not sure it shows on the camera, guys. No, it doesn't. Unfortunately. So, I personally would not recommend inhaling it simply because it's really strong. It's gonna make you cough. It's not as weak as a cigarette. However,
I mean, you can tell by how thick it is.
But personally speaking, I usually exhale 80% of the smoke and then inhale the last 20. And I do that like out of 10 puffs. I don't do that throughout the whole cigar. And that is only because I used to be a cigarette smoker, a heavy one. I used to smoke at least a pack a day. So it doesn't make sense for me to not inhale something that is much cleaner than anything else that I have ever smoked. And any other tobacco out there.
Would you recommend people trying to get off cigarettes to transition to cigars?
If you're gonna get off cigarettes and you're trying to quit smoking, the best thing you can do is quit smoking completely.
Cold turkey.
Cold turkey. I would not recommend smoking anything. But if you do enjoy smoking, we cannot make the decisions for you. It's just like drinking. It's not really good for you, but it is a form of entertainment. People still do it. As long as you do things in moderation. And I believe as long as you follow certain steps, for example, if you want to smoke a cigar and if you're going to be a daily smoker, smoke outdoors. Don't smoke in a small room where you're hotboxing yourself and you're inhaling the smoke that you're blowing out. It's not a good idea. But if you are outdoors, you're blowing the smoke in the wind, it's carrying it away, and you can continue breathing fresh oxygen. And of course, try not to inhale it unless you are coming off cigarettes and you really need a smoke. Then yes, I would actually suggest that probably taking a puff or two from this is better than smoking a pack of cigarettes. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Tell me what you think.
I mean, I was never a heavy cigarette smoker, but I've been around people that hated cigarettes but picked up cigar smoking.
That's interesting. Hated cigarettes.
Hated cigarettes. My dad, for one. He can't stand the smell of cigarette smoke. And then later on, he started, he picked up not a hobby, but he'll smoke a cigar every now and then, which I found really interesting because he couldn't be in the same room, if there was cigarette smoke. So I look at that and I think to myself, I mean, this is a more pure form of tobacco. It's smoked less often, so you're not going to smoke this every day unless...
Well, they say the actual
cigar
smoker usually smokes 2 to 3 a
2 to 3 a day.
Oh, this size right here, the Robusto, I believe this is. So, again, the fact that you don't inhale it is good enough because the whole idea of cigars is to take the nicotine from your mouth, not your lungs, to absorb the nicotine through your mouth. That is all it is. Now, some people argue saying that because you keep the smoke in your mouth for longer extended periods of time than you would with a cigarette, it increases the chance of getting cancer in your mouth instead of your lungs.
Mouth cancer. Damn.
Yeah, and so try not to keep the smoke in your mouth for too long. Just taste it, blow it out right away. I think that is like, you know, a better way of smoking a cigar, or a safer way of doing it. However, do what you like doing, what you enjoy doing. At the end of the day, it's your health, it's your decisions, it's your life.
Word.
So guys, we're gonna end it here, and we're gonna continue smoking. We're gonna see how the taste changes over, you know, the course of time, and we're gonna discuss the UFC fights. So we'll be right back.
Bring it. Alright folks, so today we're covering UFC 293, headlined by Israel Adesanya against Sean Strickland. I mean, going into this fight, myself along with most observers would have thought that this would be an easy one for Izzy. I thought he would put on a masterclass just like he did against Paulo Costa. He was fighting a strong, aggressive fighter that moves forward and likes to press, and that's usually where Izzy shines. Izzy went into the fight minus 600 favorite, and the fight was overall underwhelming, I would say, and surprising. What did you think Izzy's chances were going into the fight? What were your thoughts?
All right, I mean, from viewing polls on like YouTube channels and other places, Izzy was the fans' favorite, that's for sure. However, I have realized even against Paulo Costa, Izzy relies on leg kicks too much, and eventually someone is gonna find a way to block, avoid those attacks, and they're not gonna be as threatening. And the people who figured out how to bypass his leg kicks were able to beat him. And the people who were just taking the damage on their legs lost to him, like Costa. However, leg kicks are not working with every single fighter that he fights. They don't, because I mean they're just like any other attack. There's a way to block it, there's a way to dodge it, there's a way to counter it. There's just ways to deal with it. So when he relied on all those, you know, leg kicks, while Strickland was going for headshots, he was being the headhunter, and he had, what's his name, Izzy on the fence the whole time. The entire 5 rounds, he had him
backing up.
He was just playing defensively.
He was fighting backwards.
He was playing defensively. He was trying to survive.
A backward
I'm not
fighter.
sure why that is. He was being, and as we call in boxing, there is an in-boxer and there's an out-boxer, and like, you know, in-boxers, they like to get into your face, and they like to close the distance.
Like phone booth fighting almost.
Exactly. While the out-boxers keep their range, they pick their moments, they look for openings, and they're more tactical, like Izzy. Izzy is not really an in-boxer. He just doesn't want to sit there and just brawl and throw punches back and forth.
Absolutely not. That's not a strong point.
Because I believe his punches are weaker. His attacks are weaker. This is why he has to choose them wisely. Because if he miscalculates and gets countered like what happened in the first round, he's going to be turning around and giving his ass to the fence or to his enemy. And that's what happened. He was hit so hard that he turned around and gave his back to Strickland, which I think part of the reason why he lost confidence in his ability to absorb damage for the remainder of the fight
was that punch landed towards the end of the first round. So you know, talking about confidence, in the pre-fight press conferences, Izzy's demeanor was very relaxed. He was almost nonchalant. When asked what threats Strickland posed, he dismissed Strickland's skills. Even during the walk into the cage, Izzy was dancing. He looked very loose, and Strickland looked stressed. He was in duress, and I thought to myself, man, Izzy's just gonna get into his flow and he's gonna destroy this guy. But it quickly turned out that, as my buddy is mentioning, Izzy was backing up most of the first round, and that's how the fight played out for the remainder of all the rounds. So really what did it for Strickland was his stance. He didn't employ an overly complicated game plan. He literally came in with a few basics, but he executed his game plan perfectly and consistently throughout the fight. So if you watch Muay Thai, they usually stand face forward, opposite their opponents, instead of like a karate stance where you're kind of sideways. So Strickland came in face forward with this Muay Thai posture, and he negated a lot of Izzy's kicks by just raising this knee. So he caught a lot of kicks on the knee and on the shin.
He was checking
most of Izzy's kicks, and Izzy was stifled with his leg kicks. And then when you look at his upper body, Strickland's upper body, he employed a Philly shell stance, which was made famous and you can say perfected by Floyd Mayweather. And so a lot of Izzy's shots were rolling. Strickland was rolling the punches, and he also had this other technique he was employing, a defensive technique, also used, I believe, by Blachowicz when he fought Izzy. And he had his hands up like this, parrying most of Izzy's shots, and he just completely shut Izzy's offense down.
He did.
Completely shut him down.
That is true. That is the problem when you rely on the same tactic all the time. When you depend on leg kicks all the time, people, like I said earlier, are going to find a way to work around your main, tactic, your main strategy, whatever you want to call it. And again, I feel like that first punch that almost knocked him out.
I thought the ref was going to stop that.
That was supposed to be a TKO. TKO for sure. However, he did survive that. And I think he was telling the ref at one point, like, not to stop it or something. Like, while he was getting punched, he was like, I don't know. I
thought he was tapping out with his face.
No, I think he was telling the ref, like, don't stop it, like, because he knows that at least the way he sees it, Izzy, when he was fighting last time when he lost against
to Pereira.
Yeah, Pereira. He felt like it was stopped prematurely, and he didn't want that to happen again. I feel like the main reason he didn't want that to happen again is just it's a blemish on his record as it is. As mentioned before, Izzy has lost the last 2 out of 3 fights.
2 out of 3 fights.
That is really bad for a guy at his level.
Or someone with the ambition to become one of the GOATs.
Exactly. So, what do you think he could have done differently, Izzy, to come out of that victorious?
You see, here's the thing. Again, Strickland's shot selection was very basic. He was just fighting behind his jab, which was very successful, surprisingly successful. And he caught Izzy at the end of the first round with the 1-2. Okay? And Izzy was not able to figure him out, basically. If you listen into the coach's corner, I think it was between the 3rd and 4th rounds, Izzy was telling his coach Eugene Berriman that he's not able, his jab is not working, or he wasn't able to get his offense going.
That's true.
And he was completely blank. And so what his coach was, in response to your question, his coach basically stated that, Izzy, you need to take some risks now. You need to take some chances.
Funny you should say that, because Strickland's coach said the same thing. It's like, we don't want a point fest.
We don't want a point fest.
He's like, go in there and knock him out. However, he didn't do that. And he went for the point fest and still won. Strickland thought he was going to be grappling and wrestling a lot more with him, because he thought that was his, that was the advantage he had over Izzy.
Everybody thought that was his advantage. Yeah.
But he actually took Izzy out at his own game. He even said it at the post conference that he is one of the best strikers out there. And to be honest, like, he wasn't even really using his legs, he was just punching.
Dude,
that was almost like a boxing match against Izzy, and he still couldn't do anything against him. So imagine if that guy decided to start switching it up, in the middle of his punches, grabs Izzy, drops him down to the ground, and tries to get him into some kind of, submission. Imagine if he did that on top of it. He probably would have submitted Izzy, to be honest. And Izzy, if he doesn't get his act together, I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna, he's going to be able to keep this level of prestige that he has reached. He is now like one of the most prestigious fighters, or was at least. Not in my eyes, because I always saw him as a defensive fighter. He's aggressive at specific moments against specific people where he knows he has a huge advantage, even though he had an advantage over Strickland.
He usually
had a
has
reach
the height
advantage.
and reach advantage in
Exactly.
most of his fights.
And usually, that carried John Jones. That carried John Jones all the way through him without a single loss. And now I kind of understand why Izzy rejected the idea of fighting John Jones in the beginning and did not climb up, a different weight division into the light heavyweight.
Before Jones moved up to heavyweight.
Until John lifted. And it makes sense. If he is struggling against these guys, Jones would have made look like a joke.
His ass, dude.
Like, he has no chance. He cannot even begin to compare himself to Jones at this point. Unless he does some drastic changes over the coming years and doesn't lose any more. I don't think he can ever catch up to John Jones.
You see, he's knocked people out with one punch, Izzy. But that's because his timing is incredible and he's really accurate. He'll find your chin. But then again, he's not as powerful as some of these other heavyweights and light heavyweights, middleweights and light heavyweights. And that's why he takes full advantage of his reach and his size. And that's his style. I mean, he was a kickboxer before he moved into MMA.
He lost there too.
Well, he had a very good record. He has a few losses, but dude, he had over 80 kickboxing fights. Most of them wins. He probably has like 5 losses on his record in kickboxing. But some of the things I noticed in the fight, Strickland was really good at closing off the octagon. So he wasn't just following Izzy. He was kind of closing or reducing the space with which Izzy had to move. And so you notice that, if Izzy found himself unable to shift left or right and get up and go into open space, he kind of shelled up. Yeah. You saw that a few times, just like he did against Pereira. Now, is that something new that a new strategy he's working on, kind of like the rope-a-dope? Because he knocked Pereira out with that same strategy. Or did he have to resort to shelling up because Strickland was closing the space on him and he had nowhere to move, and so he had to defend himself?
I mean, that's a good question, because if shelling up was a part of his strategy, then it failed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if he was doing it out of desperation to survive and not get knocked out, then it succeeded. Mm-hmm. So it depends on why he was doing it. Will decide whether it was successful or not, whether his tactic was successful. If he was doing it just for pure survival, then he survived and he didn't get knocked out, because getting knocked out would have made it look a lot worse. Losing points wise is not as bad as losing, due to a technical knockout or a proper knockout. So I don't know why he was doing it. I believe personally that he was just being defensive. He was trying to survive, and at the same time, if an opening or an opportunity presents itself, and he'll take advantage of it. But unfortunately, that never happened.
It worked in his last fight.
It
worked in his last fight. I felt like he was looking for that same opening because he had nowhere else to go.
But for how long can you carry the same strategy and expect it to work on everybody?
Well, he got found out in this fight, and I think more and more people are gonna look at the things Strickland did really well and employ those same strategies when they fight Izzy, because really, once you parry the leg kicks,
yes,
and once you eliminate the leg kicks out of Izzy's game, he's either forced to fight or run away like he did.
And the problem is, he's not a good wrestler, is he?
No, that's not his forte.
Right?
No.
So,
he can grapple, but he'll want to avoid grappling.
How many submissions victories does he have?
UFC submission victories? I don't think he has any.
I
don't even know if he has any in MMA.
That's really bad when you only have one skill to rely on, and that is striking. Then you're gonna always have trouble. He has to, Izzy, mix it up. He has to get good at striking, at grappling, at kicking, punching, whatever. whatever it is, he has to be able to adjust. But if he's gonna be like, oh, if I strike and people can, block all my fucking attacks, then I can't really do much about it, and I'm gonna lose, then guess what? You're probably gonna lose a lot more.
Well, there's an argument there to be had, because some people argue that, you're doing mixed martial arts. You should be well versed in all the arts, in all the martial arts.
Which is exactly what I'm saying. If he wants to be a kickboxer and a striker, he should have stuck to kickboxing, not came into the UFC.
But now let's look at the flip side. There are people that argue that, of course, you do need to have a basic level of skill in your common disciplines. So wrestling, jiu-jitsu,
Yes.
and kickboxing or boxing, striking.
Striking, yes, that's
Basically
true.
striking. Now, some people argue that if you are a master at one discipline and then are all right at others, so take Khabib for example, Khabib Nurmagomedov, he was a master grappler, master wrestler. He wasn't the best puncher, wasn't the best striker, but because he was so dominant with that one discipline, he would force how the fight played out every single time. Now usually grapplers, that's, people say that's the best base to have in MMA is wrestling or some grappling discipline. But if you're an elite level striker, you're a dangerous fighter. But then again, you probably won't have an unblemished record like Khabib or like John Jones.
And that is what I was expecting and hoping that Izzy would have initially. Like, I was never a big Izzy fan. Initially, like, I was more curious if I was gonna ever be a fan, because I don't like people that, that care too much about anything outside the octagon when they are in the octagon. Like, when he comes in and he talks about anime, I love anime, don't get me wrong, but like, it's not the time for it, it's not the place for it. He likes to do a lot of like big intros. It's not WrestleMania, this is not WWF, it's not about that, it's about getting in there. I understand that it's more entertaining,
It's
it
an
might attract more
entertainment
eyeballs.
business.
It might attract more eyeballs, I'm not denying that fact. But when your focus becomes shattered and just all over the place, and you're like, oh, instead of training and thinking about the training, I'm thinking about what kind of costume I'm going to be wearing, and what kind of intro I'm going to do, what kind of dance I'm going to do, what kind of music I'm going to play. That is time taken away from what really matters, which is practicing for the fight. Unless you're like John Jones and you want to go get drunk and bang girls before you fight, I don't recommend caring too much about anything else outside the fight, unless it's generating wealth for you. You maybe have your own business, you have your own thing, so if you ever retire, you have something to fall on.
It's like Conor. Conor got into a bunch of
and
other
what happened
businesses.
after Conor got into businesses? He became crap. Let's be honest, he became crap. He's not hungry. He's not as hungry as he was. He was in there hungry, dying for 60 grand. Remember when it's like 60 grand, baby, or whatever it was? And now it's like, I got like 600 million.
Oh shit, 60 grand.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
now, if you want.
I'll wipe my head with 60 grand. You know what I mean? So once he got paid, he started losing and losing and losing, and he almost went on a losing streak. From a winning streak to a losing streak. That's what happens when you're not hungry. And I think that is also happening with Israel Adesanya, even though he's nowhere near as rich as Conor McGregor is at this point. I do believe that he is reaching that point where maybe he doesn't care as much as he used to. Maybe he's not as hungry as he was initially when he first joined. He had the belt wrapped around his waist for a couple of years now. He did everything you can do, went to events, whatever, got paid for promotions and all that as a world champ. And now it feels like, maybe it's time to give, somebody else with the belt.
Do you think he deserves a rematch? Based on merit?
Look, he deserves a rematch, but I'm not sure it should be immediately. He lost 2 out of his last 3 fights. That is that is not championship record.
Well, he got that one back. First,
Okay.
Lost to Pereira. He got that one back.
Hold on. To Pereira. Okay. How many times did he lose?
To Pereira?
Yeah. And throughout his whole life. I'm not talking about just UFC.
Once in MMA, twice in kickboxing.
And he only won 1 time against him. So still
But
3-1.
one of the kickboxing fights should have the decision should have been given to Izzy.
Should have.
In the first kickboxing bout.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't. It was unfair to be frank.
Look,
he should have won that
Look,
fight.
like Strickland's coach said, we don't want a point fest, and that's what he did, and he paid for it. And that kickboxing match that you're talking about, he should have tried to knock him out. And I understand that these things are not easily achievable. Go in there, knock somebody out, it's not it's easier said than done. However, if you don't knock someone out, you leave your fate in the hands of the judges.
Yeah.
You want a guaranteed victory, you're gonna have to go for a knockout, submission, or you're gonna have to dominate all the rounds or the majority of the rounds.
Well, he got dominated 4 rounds out of 5 in this fight.
Really,
And-
I felt like he got dominated all 5 rounds. to be
well,
honest.
that second round, he kind of had some momentum, but then that quickly died out. Third,
Look, to me, the way I see it, did he have any significant strikes? I don't think so. I don't remember Strickland ever being in a threatening position
he got
where
he got
almost
touched. He got
he got
touched once or
touched,
twice.
But was he?
No, he kept moving forward.
Exactly.
There was one
Exactly.
sequence. There was one sequence
Exactly.
where Izzy in the second round, Izzy backed him up. Okay, because he got hurt. Strickland got hurt, but Izzy never capitalized on that, and Strickland.
And you don't know if Strickland actually got hurt, because I've seen people. It's very rare where it's actually part of the tactic to pretend like you're hurt.
He'll play possum.
Exactly. To bait your enemy or whoever it is, and then as soon as they try to swing, because now they're overconfident, they let down their guard. You find more openings. So maybe he was really hurt. Maybe he was hurt just a bit and pretended to be hurt a bit more just to bait in Izzy to make him a bit more confident, start swinging a bit wilder, and capitalize on that. But regardless, I watched all 5 rounds and I felt like Strickland never was really in any threatening position at any time.
He wasn't really in danger.
No, he wasn't
No.
in any real threat. No.
It was, dude.
He was being aggressive.
There was not even a
entire
mark on his face
Yeah,
after
yeah,
the fight.
exactly.
He even said, "I expected to come out of this all bloody, bloody face, bloody nose." He had not even a scratch on his face. And in the 5th round, where Izzy was clearly losing the fight, I thought to myself, "It's do or die. This guy's gonna go out there." His coach just told him he needs to take risks. I thought he was gonna go out and either get the KO or go out on his shield. That never happened. I mean, like you said, it's not always easy to knock someone out. So we got Strickland as the new middleweight champion.
Izzy should have never talked shit. Honestly, before pre-fight, I was expecting Strickland to get struck down, but it ended up with the style bender bending over. That is the truth. Very disappointing fight. I hope Izzy does better next time, even though he is not my favorite fighter. It's Johnny Bones Jones. And I don't know if this guy's ever going to come back. He's going to have a next fight.
He's fighting in November.
Against-
Arguably his last fight against.
That's why I'm not sure if he's going to come back, because that's it. He has nothing else to prove. I feel
Well,
like
he
made
wants
enough
to
money.
beat this guy.
Yeah, but he's getting old. He's reaching 40. Like most people are
former
unless
champ.
you are the soldier of God, you will not be fighting above 40. Very few people have made it above 40, but the soldier of God, he's just still impressive. The strength, his physique, just his build at that age. And to be able to compete against guys that are at the age of probably his kids, if he has any. He's 45. He probably has a kid that's 20 or in the 20s.
Anderson Silva's kid is into fighting now. He's a professional fighter.
Exactly. So
And Anderson's, he just had a professional competition not a few months ago in boxing. Yeah.
How did that go?
Well, he lost to Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. Oh, man.
Fortunately.
That was done for entertainment purposes only. I'm telling you guys, if you think Jack Paul is an actual threat to... Who did he fight as well?
Nate Diaz. He just beat Nate Diaz in
Nate
points.
Diaz, okay. Nate Diaz is a good fighter, but he was never a champ or anything. But he'd been another champ. What was the other guy?
Tyron Woodley.
Tyron Woodley.
Knocked him the fuck out.
I don't believe that guy can knock out Tyron Woodley. This is my personal opinion. I am not accusing anyone of anything, so don't sue me. But I just believe it's showbiz and nothing more when it comes to
Those
Jack or what
Jake Paul?
Yeah, whatever his name was. I never really watched any of his things because I don't see them as proper fights. I watch proper fights as in the UFC and like actual boxing matches and stuff like that. And I would never look at these big promotional fights that are just there for sheer entertainment, nothing else. What do you think of it?
I'm still a big of the exhibition bouts, dude. I was against them at first, but I'm not gonna lie. I've tuned in to Jake's last 2 or 3 fights against Nate Diaz. I didn't watch the Anderson Silva fight. I thought that was a drab. Anderson's near 50. I did watch his fight against Tommy Fury, and I was hoping Tommy Fury would knock him out just to prove that a professional boxer will always be better than.
Tommy Fury was fighting who?
He fought Jake Paul, and he beat him on points as well.
He beat Jack.
He beat Jake Paul. Tommy Fury's Tyson Fury's
Brother.
kid brother. Yeah.
Kid brother.
Yeah, he's a professional boxer. He doesn't have that many fights on his record, but this guy's been training boxing since he was a kid. So his class proved against Jake Paul, but it wasn't an entertaining fight. Now, what do I think of these exhibition bouts? They're good for the sport. They're bringing more eyes to boxing. They're bringing new fans to boxing. And especially when you do these crossover fights like Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, you'll have both MMA and boxing fans watching the bout. So overall, even if the quality of the product is not that great, it still makes for good entertainment.
It does.
And I still love you, Izzy. I still think you're one of my favorite fighters, although I do think after this Strickland fight, more people will catch on to what strategies to employ to negate and cut off Izzy's offense. And if you notice, if you look at his UFC career, I've noticed a recent trend. He either has spectacular fights or he has boring fights, like the Yoel Romero fight, like the Jan Blachowicz fight, and this Sean Strickland fight where he was just, keeping distance most of the time.
Are you saying he's scared?
I'm not saying he's scared. I think Izzy is a master at
Being cautious.
at space management and controlling distance. But then if he's not able to get his offense in, what he's left with is space management and controlling distance with no offense, and that makes for a boring fight.
It is. Yeah, it does make it for a boring fight. I hope he changes his tactics soon. To be honest, I don't know what else to say about him. I've always been telling my friend right here that Izzy's tactics are not gonna last long, and he's gonna end up piling a bunch of losses if he keeps going the way he does. I don't know what else he can do. He needs to learn how to grapple or wrestle, but I feel like it's a bit too late at this point.
It's too
The guy's
late.
34.
He's 35. Yeah.
Yeah, 34, 35. So how much time does he have to learn? You know what I mean? And even if he does learn anything, is he going to be able to compete with guys who have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years or whatever, since they were 5, 10, or whenever they started wrestling or kickboxing or jiu-jitsu, whatever it is that they started, those martial arts. Some of these people started at a really young age, you know what I mean? So you can't keep up or compete with somebody who has just that much more experience than you.
Dude, it wasn't his night. It just wasn't. The stars were aligned for Strickland. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, stars aligned for Strickland. I mean, I don't know.
Izzy's proven before that he's a worthy champion. He's come back from a loss.
He's a good fighter.
He lost to Pereira,
He's an
and he
amazing
came back and knocked him out spectacularly. This is another chance for him to prove that he is a champion. I'm sure he'll get the rematch, if not immediately, soon after. And looking forward to seeing what he's going to bring next time.
Yeah, me too. Even though he's not my favorite fighter, I do like to see how I like his fighting style. I like some of his, fights. I like some of his fights before. Some, like you said, were boring and just you're like, what is he doing? Is he getting old, or is he just not as hungry as he used to be? I have no idea. Like I said, he lost 2 out of his last 3 fights. That's a third, and that is really bad. Like that kind of concludes that he's not ready to fight. He's not ready for a title shot, and he probably should fight like one of the top contenders first, prove himself one more time before getting a title shot.
Well, he's beat all the top contenders except for this new guy from South Africa,
Oh, there you go.
Duplessis. Now, let's see if the UFC made
What's his position?
Duplessis, I'm not sure. I think he's top 5. He's made his way into top 5. He just beat Robert Whittaker, former champion.
All right.
So he's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, okay. If he's in the top 5, it's good enough to fight.
He's the only guy Izzy hasn't beat, but that's because he's just recently joined the UFC. Otherwise,
what's his record looking like now?
Duplessis, I'm not entirely sure. But he's a good fighter, and he's thick and strong. And so they'll either do the Strickland rematch, or they'll do a tune-up, not a tune-up fight, but a fight before he goes again for the championship belt. That could be Duplessis or someone else.
We'll figure it out when the time comes. We're gonna have another video like this, guys, and we're gonna discuss another cigar and another fight.
And that's the beautiful thing about the sport, is that no matter
I thought you were
how
gonna
much
say this channel.
and this channel, no matter how much you think you know about a fight or who's gonna win, there's never a surefire guarantee. You're always in for a good surprise.
Yeah, there are no guarantees in a fight.
No guarantees,
It can
man.
go either way at any point during the fight. That is true. You can't blame anyone for losing, but at the same time, you can have expectations out of the fighter, especially for the people who are betting. I heard, what's his name? Drake lost $500,000, guys. $500,000 on his ass.
They call it the Drake curse. If he's put a bet on you, your ass is gonna lose.
Ooh, the Drake curse. Why is Drake cursed? Gee, I thought the guy was rich. I thought he was blessed, not cursed. The guy's like a millionaire, isn't he? That sounds like a blessing. I mean, they say the more money, more problems, so maybe it's not. Who knows? I'm not filthy rich. I'm not a millionaire, guys. But maybe once I find out if I ever become rich through this channel, thanks to you guys, I would let you know what kind of curse comes along with money. What's our next fight? I believe we should be covering this fight. It's not for sure, but it is most likely this is the fight we're going to cover next.
Most likely we'll be doing UFC 294, so I think we can cover 2 fights on that card. We got Hamzat against Paulo Costa. That's going to be
I wanted to see that
fucking banger. And we got the rematch between Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. The first fight was a blowout for Islam. He completely dominated and ended up submitting Charles Oliveira. This is the rematch. I don't think he'll have it as easy this time around, but we're looking forward to it. Until next month, folks.
Well, guys, this has been Cigars and Brawls. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're signing out and see you all next time. Peace.